that might just be a cultural thing. It might be a German thing. I don't know, because in Persian families, you kiss your parents on the mouth. It's not a big deal. You kiss strangers on the cheek. But family, it's a mouth kiss.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday nights searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your 3 hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me, I've got Big D Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And the bearded one, Gene Lyons.
I ate green berets for breakfast, and right now, I'm very hungry.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films from the 80s and 90s still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from our 4 movie-themed choices that we then break out a VHS race car tape rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of the podcast, we 3 will provide a median Shat score so that you know how many wipes this movie would need to take to get off your butt. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you found us, please be sure to subscribe to us. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found. And follow us on social media. We're at Shat the Movies. This week's theme, Big D, was military, if I'm not mistaken. And they were they exclusively 80s films?
Yeah, I actually think they were. It was Top Gun, Commando, Red Dawn,
Wolverines!
And what was the 4th one? It was another one that I thought was pretty damn good.
Rambo?
Yes, correct.
It was Rambo.
Yeah.
It was the
First
second
Blood,
Rambo,
Part 2.
First Blood. Yeah, part 2. That's right. That's right.
and-
Now, I feel like the movies that were made in the 80s from the military perspective were like the best. They were the most over the top. They were the craziest, most like Reagan era, Patriot, Rocky style movies where America always comes out on top.
They were not based in reality at all. So that was what made them so awesome. This movie, it doesn't even pretend to be real, and that's why it's so awesome.
That's right. Now, you were in the military, Big D, so we have a lot of military questions that we're definitely going to ask you. So for those who have never seen Commando or listened to this podcast before, we will tell you the plot of the movie. You can follow along with us. It's better if you watch the movie. So if you haven't watched Commando, we highly recommend you stop this podcast, rent the movie, then press play from this point forward. Now, from what I understand, though, Gene, there's a director's cut of this movie?
Right. If you go to Amazon Video for streaming, where I watch most of the videos that we present on Shat the Movies, there is the option if you could watch the director's cut or the theatrical cut. So I asked you 2 gentlemen which we should watch. We decided on the theatrical cut because that's the one that everyone is mostly familiar with. So I don't know what's in the director's cut.
Yeah, after watching this, I'm definitely going to go back and watch the director's cut because what Big D you discovered is there's some behind the scenes making documentary on YouTube that blows your mind.
Yeah, there's a making of or behind the scenes. It seems like it was half done in jest, but Ray Dong Chong makes so many culturally insensitive comments. Some of the things that she covers is Arnold's package. She talks about his penis. She talks about whether there was a sexual relationship between Matrix and Bennett. She talks about the extras that were on set that happened to be of Mexican descent and what she thought of them, and she describes them by color. It is so far out there, and Arnold is in his prime. He's young, he's greased up, he's hunky, and he makes a joke about how he misses Hawaii and getting laid. And no, not what you think. They put a lei around your neck. That's what I miss. It's rough.
This is the era of times where people that were filmed behind the scenes thought that things would never get out. Right? Like there's no filter. And that's what's great about behind the scenes from 80s movies, especially like this.
Yeah, but I definitely recommend that. I'll put a link in the notes. Watch it, and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, it's like watching a fan who just watched this movie but was in the movie talk about the movie without a filter. Like, there's no publicist, and I don't know if she has a career anymore. I haven't seen her in some things, so she doesn't care about her career. She's just saying whatever she wants. Her name is Ray Dawn, right? Ray Dawn?
Yeah, she's the daughter of Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong.
That makes more sense then. That makes more. I apologize for my. Yeah, she's okay. Okay.
Yeah, she's high.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So the overall plot of this movie, Commando, is a 1985 American action film directed by Mark Lester and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and, of course, Ray Dong Chong. A retired special officer, Colonel John Matrix, of course played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, is living the quiet life. He is happily spending his time in a remote country house where he dotes on his daughter, Jenny, played by Alyssa Milano. This was pre-Who's the Boss, correct? This was before Alyssa Milano was okay. However, some mercenaries, former colleagues of his, have other plans. They kidnap Jenny and give Matrix an ultimatum: assassinate a Central American leader or they will kill Jenny. Matrix, however, has other ideas about that. This is basically a superhero movie before there were superhero movies. Because this movie was written by Jeff Loeb. Jeff Loeb is a comic book writer. He's failed upwards. He's the vice president of Marvel. And he's written a lot of good, but you could tell this movie was a poor adaptation from like a graphic novel. But for some reason, it has a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, while only a 67% from the audience. Like, you would think a movie like this would have it flip-flop. You think the audience would like this more than critics.
Yeah, so Commando was one of his first real breakouts. He had already done Terminator. I think Red Sonja came out the same year. This movie had a budget of about $10 million, went on to make 57.5. But when you look at Schwarzenegger's entire list of movies, this is down towards the bottom, but still it holds such a place in every 80s kid's heart. So it wasn't one of his biggest, but it is one of his most memorable.
Forget being one of Arnold's biggest. This wasn't even the biggest R-rated movie of 1985. That's what I miss about 1980s movies, is that this was the 7th highest grossing R-rated movie. And for that to happen, like, think of how many other great R-rated movies there were in 1985. Like, if you were to do the top to the bottom of 1985, the number one movie was Back to the Future, then Rambo: First Blood Part 2, right? R-rated movie. You have Rocky 4. I believe Rocky 4 was this before PG-13? Was that R?
Come on, you got to remember that answer. What movie sparked PG-13? We covered it.
Oh, it was Rocky 4, wasn't it?
No, it was Gremlins.
Oh, it was Gremlins. So this is
after.
This is after. Okay, all right. So this is all right. Anyway, The Color Purple, Out of Africa, Cocoon, Jewel of the Nile, Witness, The Goonies, and Spies Like Us rounded up the top 10. But it still made a ton of money. It made $47.5 million in profit. Like, again, for a superhero movie, and that's basically what it is. This is essentially, he's playing the Terminator with a kid, right? This is Terminator 2, 6 years early.
Yeah, back then, obviously, in the 80s, they weren't too worried about the R label. We saw now with Deadpool how the studio was really averse to giving an R rating. Back in the 80s, they didn't care, and it made money.
Yeah. So, what were your memories of this movie? I mean, I remember seeing this on VHS, again, from the kid across the street. I think I don't know if I've ever seen this movie all the way through. I think I've only seen it, like, the back half. I had no idea there was such a backstory, an intricate backstory to this movie.
I'm with you on that, Raj. I had thought I'd seen this whole movie, and then I realized the opposite of you. I'd only seen the beginning of the movie and didn't recall seeing the whole thing, which got, progressively more exciting for me because I realized, like, I don't know. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know for sure what was going to happen. So I don't think I saw. I think it was one of those things when you were a kid that was on sometimes, but you never really sat down and watched the whole thing.
I have vivid memories of this. I was too young to sneak into the movie theater to see it because it was R. But my parents were lucky enough to have HBO growing up. And HBO each month would put out like their little magazine that had the schedule and all the movies, and they would mail it to you. And I remember getting it 2 weeks before it started, and Commando was on the cover. And I sat there and read through it 3 or 4 times, and I could not wait. The first time it came on HBO, I was there. And I guess maybe that's where my love of the military came from.
people don't understand, like millennials today, those millennials, right? But like they don't understand how awesome it was to read the schedule of a TV guide. But this is also a movie that's consistently played on the USA Network, TNT, Spike all day Arnold marathons, but they always leave like the good stuff out. Like I don't think I'd heard of the machete lopping the arm off. Like I remember kids talking about that on the bus, but I had never seen the version of that until today. Like this was the first time I ever saw that scene, and it did not disappoint.
It kind of reminded me of like if Friday the 13th, if Jason was a good guy, basically. Like that's what we were watching.
Some fun trivia and facts. This movie was nominated for one award. It was for special effects, but lost to Back to the Future. But this is also the era of rated R movies with action figures. Like this movie was R rated, but I had no idea it had action figures. Do you remember the action figures for Commando? Did you have any of these action figures?
No, I don't ever remember action figures for R-rated movies until the pictures you posted, but now I want them.
No, I distinctly recall like these and knockoffs, several knockoffs of these, right? These were like the prototypes for all sorts of toy manufacturers to make. There was the Rambo prototype, there was the Commando prototype, and it wasn't quite a G.I. Joe toy. It was bigger than that, but it was smaller than the original G.I. Joe toys. These were kind of like the big wrestler toys, that kind of same build, and the He-Man toys. They were the same size as the He-Man toys.
So I put some pictures here on the screen. They actually had 3 different sizes. They had a G.I. Joe size. Right? They weren't as good quality. They were like the ones that you would find at like 7-Eleven, but they were not, they weren't as good as, but they were the same size as G.I. Joe. Then you had the He-Man size that came like dressed in a vest or whatever, but you could like get him down to his skivvies, you know, in that scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger rowing the boat, seemingly just because he needed that shot of him in a bikini. Like they had that character, and then they've got like the giant G.I. Joe character. So I had no idea, but I do remember the Rambo, and I remember the A-Team had characters like this. So that's the end of the fun, facts, and trivia. Let's dive into this movie. Big D, roll the trailer.
They hunted him down.
You know, Colonel, we went to a lot of trouble to find you.
They murdered his friends. And they took the only thing he would kill for.
If you want your kid back, then you gotta cooperate. Right? Wrong.
Do you think that he is going to give us any problems?
You'll do exactly as he's told.
Hasta luego, fellas.
You're a funny guy, Sully. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Are you gonna tell me what's going on or what?
No. Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired. What are you doing?
Helping you get her back.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
If it's a mission no man can survive, he's the man for the job. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Commando.
Let's party.
So the movie starts off. Retired Delta Force operator Colonel John Matrix is informed by his former superior, Major General Franklin Kirby, that all the other members of his former unit have been killed by unknown mercenaries. The mercenaries, among them Bennett, an Australian ex-member of Matrix's team fired for unknown reasons, attack Matrix's secluded mountain home and kidnap Matrix's young daughter, Jenny, played by Alyssa Milano. While trying to intercept them, Matrix is also overpowered and abducted by the mercenaries.
Man, where to start? The opening credits, I love them. They're creepy, informative, all in one. It's almost like an 80s sitcom on TV. We see Arnold running around with his daughter. They're laughing and giggling. They're getting ice cream. They're wiping on each other's faces. They're somehow feeding a wild deer with their bare hands. We're led to really see the intense relationship that John has with his teenage daughter. Is she preteen? How old do we think Jenny is?
Yeah, it's pretty far into the montage before we figure out that's his daughter.
So how old do we think she is?
Oh, easily preteen. I mean, she's wearing like those like little kid overalls.
Oshkosh bagosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's old enough to know how to like escape a boarded up room, right? Like, so what are we placing her here? Are we saying like middle school age? Like what are we talking here?
I'm going to say she's old enough as a father of a young daughter that I would not want to kiss my daughter on the mouth twice within the first 2 minutes. It's a strangely, okay, you can think I'm strange. I accept that. But my wife, she is the most kind-hearted. She sees the world as rainbows and unicorns.
Right.
She turned to me and she said, I wrote down this quote because I couldn't believe she said it. She said, "Thank God that we saw that I love my daddy on the fridge, so that way we don't know he's a pedophile."
Yeah.
If my wife thinks that, it's got to be out there.
Look, she was 12 years old when this movie was shot, and I am an adult, and my mom still kisses me on the mouth. That might just be a cultural thing. It might be a German thing. I don't know, because in Persian families, you kiss your parents on the mouth. It's not a big deal. You kiss strangers on the cheek, but family, it's a mouth kiss.
I find it weird that maybe they had to shoehorn that in because it did seem a little creepy. This guy is living out in the middle of nowhere. We see him like carrying a giant log and he's, cutting wood. He's doing very manly things. We've seen other movies start like this and they've got people trapped in a basement. So I could totally see where like it was a little creepy up until we saw that the whole sandwich thing. Like, come on, kid, make a sandwich.
It struck me during this scene, though, that we've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger play a cyborg. We've seen him play a barbarian. We've seen him play a mercenary. All of those were more believable than him as a father. Father is easily the most I've seen him struggle in a role. Like, he's playing a commando that's, like, butchering people with garden utensils or tools, and that doesn't seem as odd as him as a dad. It just was weird. And yeah, like you guys pointed out, the feeding the deer was just the most over the top. And that's where I kind of, sat there and asked myself, is this movie kind of lampooning itself? Because it does have a sense of humor. And so maybe they're just trying to take it, farther. Now, the interesting thing about it is they didn't want to lose us before they got to this point. They didn't want to open with this soft shit and have the guys in the crowd go, "Oh, F this, I'm going to go do something else." They open within the first 3 minutes of the movie. You've got automatic weapons fire. You got Uzis. You got a guy driving another guy through the window of a car dealership on the hood of a Cadillac. Like, I'm already grabbing my popcorn at this point.
Yeah, this movie did not hold back at all. It was 1,000 miles an hour, balls to the wall. In an hour and 30 minutes, I can't believe that they covered so much ground. So some of the relationship stuff, I understand that they had to really force it. It had to be quick. We had to believe that John and his daughter was the most important thing to him. But if you blinked, if you got up to get a drink, you would have no idea what was going on in the plot. It moved that fast.
Or there was just that shallow of plot. Like the only other thing that I'll say that this movie got wrong, that Predator got right, is the amount of bicep porn. Right? Like they tried to do bicep porn, but it was like softcore bicep porn. Like, and we only got to see like Arnold's. Like, I wanted to see more biceps.
This is the thing. This is what I loved about the 80s, though. In the 80s, guys could go watch a movie because there was a muscly guy in the movie and just be like, "Damn, that dude is muscly." And that was totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah, totally fine.
So can we talk here about the assault on John's compound?
Is it a compound? Like, were they dropping off soldiers to guard him? Is that what was going on?
Yes, the colonel comes in. He's informing him what's going on, and he's going to set up his two top guys. He sets up Jackson and Harris, and Matrix asks, are these guys good? He says, they're not as good as you. They're dead within 30 seconds.
Because they couldn't smell the enemy coming.
Not only are they dead within 30 seconds, but I don't want anybody guarding me who I can sneak up on, like sneak past and grab the gun off their commanding officer. He pulls a gun on Kirby and he's like, "Ha-ha," and he's like, "Oh, you're smooth," whatever. But the two guys are they never even come over to do anything about it. They're just like, whatever.
So John Matrix, Arnold Schwarzenegger, runs out to his shed. There's a secret safe, which good gun safety, because at this time, gun safety was, you didn't want kids running around with guns that look like real guns. So he's got a safe there. And he pulls out his gun. He rushes back into the house. He finds the guy is dead, right? He looks down and he sees the caravan and other car going out. He runs to his truck, opens the hood.
Well, hold on.
And then discovers.
You're skipping
wait a minute.
a big thing.
Am I skipping a big piece?
Oh, you're missing the big piece. So
what am I missing?
So he climbs up on the roof and he goes in the second floor. And right in the doorway is the dead soldier Harris. Falls over.
Yes.
He enters the room, and one of the terrorists is sitting in a chair, telling John that I know you're going to comply. I know you're going to comply. And John goes, wrong, and shoots him in the head. At this point, you know this movie is going to have quotes that are, I mean, this movie probably has 30 memorable quotes. Arnold must have seen the success of I'll Be Back, and he wanted to get maybe a couple dozen in there. He then looks out the window, sees that they're trying to escape. He goes to his truck, which has obviously been incapacitated. He has to open the hood, and he pulls out what looks like 35 spark plug wires.
They look like they didn't even belong in that engine.
No.
Like they're just cords.
The scene where he shoots the guy in the head also gave me a great appreciation for modern filmmaking and how realistic they've made the headshot and scenes, like HBO's Westworld. This guy gets shot in the head and it just looks like someone threw a ketchup packet on his forehead. That's about the extent of it.
That's right.
The blood throughout this movie is just it's very pink.
Well, not only that, but then the sounds that the guns were making, they didn't even try to make them sound like, it sounds like a laser beam off of G.I. Joe. It sounds like when a Transformer in the animated series would shoot their laser cannon. That's what it sounds like. That's what the bullets sound like.
Yeah, and you have to remember this. The first time through, I was a little more critical of it. And then I watched the documentary, and it was their intention to go over the top. So they don't even pretend to be real. Think of this as a live-action video game. And that's why I'm not going to be too hard on it, because it wasn't their intention to give us Platoon or Black Hawk Down or something that was a real representation of combat. This is like you said, a superhero movie. So let's not get too critical about the punching sounds or picking up of phone booths or other superhuman actions.
So during that chase, getting back to the chase, he knows his daughter's been abducted. He goes after the guys, and what's hilarious about this whole situation is that he misses them. He pushes the car downhill, misses them once, misses them twice essentially, and then crashes the thing. So his whole entrance, I'm like losing a lot of faith right now in John Matrix, because he endangers his daughter's life. If he had hit the car, he could have killed the kid, and then he ends up crashing and getting captured anyway. Like it was complete folly. I guess his point was, he didn't have time to put together a plan. He just needed to catch up with these guys somehow.
But I enjoyed watching the cuts of each time that the car would go down the next set of ravines. You could tell that the trucks were flipping, and they would just splice them together. They probably went through 10 Broncos to get this thing to go down the hill. But it ends at the end where Matrix is finally surrounded by Bennett and his men. He realizes Bennett's alive, and they tranquilize him.
Yeah, because Bennett was originally thought to be dead. There's a scene in the beginning where you see Bennett supposedly get blown up, but they don't expand on it. You don't even know who this guy is at this point. You don't even know if you're supposed to care about him. But anyway, Matrix is taken before their leader Arius, which again, before this note was written, I had no idea the guy's name was Arius. I didn't even know the character had a name. I thought it was like El Presidente. Anyway, he's a South American former dictator who needs Matrix to carry out a political assassination in his home country of, get this, Valverde. Where Arius wishes to lead a military coup, Matrix previously led a United States-backed revolution that deposed Arius, who has chosen Matrix because the new U.S. puppet president trusts him implicitly. With Jenny's life on the line, Matrix reluctantly accepts the demand. Now, again, I did not catch any of this because the actor who is playing Arius, I don't believe he is a native Spanish speaker, but he's putting on a pretty heavy accent.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. So the actor is Danny Hedaya, who is from Brooklyn, and I believe Hedaya, that's a Jewish name. So you got all sorts of things going on here. And when he does speak Spanish, it is it's more off than his English with a Spanish accent. Also, Valverde, I did some research on that. So Valverde is actually a fictional country or city that's used by Hollywood writer and producer Stephen E. D'Souza when his stories require a South or Central American locale that will not cause legal or diplomatic problems. So here are places where Valverde has appeared. The first time was in Commando, also in Super Carrier, Die Hard 2, and then there's an independent video game called Broforce, which if you haven't seen it, you can download it on Steam. I'm a big fan of Broforce, and you play different characters, but they're like, instead of RoboCop, it's RoBroCop.
Yeah.
And, Indiana Brones, I think, or whatever. You play all these different,
bros.
Bros from action movies. Anyway, part of that is set in Valverde as well as an homage to Commando. Command Bro.
Well, I was actually wrong, so I do apologize. The script is actually written by Steven De Souza for Commando. So he actually wrote this script, but the story originally was by Jeff Loeb. So Jeff Loeb is credited with the story. De Souza is the actual screenwriter in connection with Jeff Loeb. So anyway, I feel like the number of lines that Arnold has is just the number of catchphrases that he tries to make. Like, there's no real exposition that he does throughout the... And all of his lines, by the way, are complete ADR. Because if you watch that documentary, he still has a very heavy Austrian accent.
Yeah, I think watching the documentary, it was clear that Arnold's English, he was not as fluent as he is today, so they had to probably manipulate the script. He didn't have any soliloquies. He just said, "I'll be back. Where'd you learn that? You're going to die." That was the extent of his lines.
I do think, though, that it's proper, or we should give credit at least to the script writers in the sense that they made good use of that, where it's actually some of the lines that he delivers wouldn't even be funny if a guy just said it, especially with how abrupt he is with Cindy, the flight attendant that he meets, where he's just, no. If you're gonna kill me, would you tell me? Yes.
This is the closest representation of McBain from The Simpsons as you'll find in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He says things like, "Don't wake up my friend. He is dead tired."
Yeah, but it completely shows why Arnold became the A-list celebrity and movie star that he turned into. He's charismatic. He's compelling. He can get away with it. When he says these throwaway bullshit catchphrases, but does them with that little smirk, it's like we're in on the joke and we want to laugh with him. Only he could pull it off.
Do you think he was smart enough to know that this was a big parody and a big joke? Do you really think that? Listen, Arnold's a brilliant guy. He's a smart dude. But do you really think that was happening here?
I do, and here's why. Terminator, he played it completely differently.
Yeah.
This if he was trying to play a straight action role, he would have done it, the "I'll be back," which, is a reference to Terminator. I can't actually believe that Terminator came out a year before this, because Terminator seems like so much more an advanced movie. But in Terminator, I think you really see what he can do if he wants to play a dramatic, stoic role. He's definitely laughing throughout this movie.
Yeah, but this is pre-Twins. Was this the movie that encouraged him? I can do comedy now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even thought about that while I watched this movie. It does seem like this was the introduction to him doing comedy, and I think it gave I'm glad that they explored that, because Kindergarten Cop and Twins were fucking hilarious.
Were they?
Kindergarten Cop is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
I think we need to go back and we need to throw that on the list. Throw that on the cop movie. Is it too late to put Kindergarten Cop on our cop movies? I think we should throw that. If we could. Just making a suggestion.
Or you could add it to Schwarzenegger-thon.
Yes. After boarding the plane to Valverde, Matrix manages to kill his guard, Enrique, and jumps from the plane just as it is taking off. With approximately 11 hours until the flight lands, he sets out after another one of Arius' men who stayed behind, Sully. He enlists the aid of an off-duty flight attendant, Cindy, and instructs her to follow Sully to a shopping mall. Cindy first assumes Matrix is a maniac, but after she sees Sully pull a gun on Matrix in the ensuing fight, she has a change of heart and henceforth assists him in his endeavor.
So I want to start off with his escape, because it's one of the most memorable scenes.
Yeah.
We see, obviously, that 80s air travel was very different. Security was lax. They have to walk out on the runway to board the plane. They're sitting in first class. Arnold knows he's got to get off the plane. He's able to snap this dude's neck, and no one knows. No one sees it. Fine. He then sneaks away as the plane's taking off, and the stewardess says, "You have to sit down." His excuse is, "I have air sickness." The plane's not even off the ground. It's been rolling maybe 2 miles an hour. She lets him go. he finally memorably climbs down into the landing gear and jumps off. Do you know what the average speed that a commercial airliner takes off at?
It's about 180 miles per hour.
Somebody did research. Yes, 160 to 180 miles an hour. Matrix is dead. We see one cut where he looks like he's just falling from 13,000 feet straight down, and then he just splashes on his back, cue the steel drums, and he's off and running.
Right. All right. So I think I could chalk this up to first class elitism, right? Like, if they were nice enough, these are the nicest terrorists ever. Like, we know you're going to do something terrible. You're going to go down. You're going to create a military coup. You're going to kill another man. You're going to kill a president. But what we are going to do is we're going to give you first class tickets on an 11-hour flight and give you a blazer.
Yeah, the blazer was a nice touch to kind of, you got to get dressed up when you fly. I don't know about you guys, but I always get dressed up when I fly. I feel like you never know who you're going to meet at the airport. And people just treat you better if you're dressed nicer. So I always make sure I'm wearing a tie and get dressed for the airport.
So you think the terrorists were nice. Were you okay with Sully's comments about wanting to have some private time alone with Matrix's 12-year-old daughter?
Yeah, but Sully's not going. He's not with the daughter, is he? Oh, he's going back to the daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, but Sully's all talk.
No, Sully looks like he was,
You think so?
I mean, he follows a woman into a parking structure. I don't know. But yeah, that line is just flat creepy. Why don't you just buy yourself some beer so we have more time alone with your daughter? It's just about as bad as it gets. What's really weird though is that Sully's doing all this at about 4'2".
Yeah, he is a small man. Like he is a short dude. And listen, nothing against short people. Listen, short people are the pillar of our communities and the engine that makes this economy go. But standing up against a Arnold Schwarzenegger, you want more of an imposing figure. You want someone that's going to not be like, oh, well, he could just crush this thing with his hand.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in this movie really matched him physically. I think the closest they got was Cook, and who we'll talk about later, but that's about it. I mean, you don't see anybody who, you just compare the body types of Bennett and Matrix, and it's like, come on, how is this even a fight?
Yeah, I think that's one area that the movie went wrong. We just did Rocky IV last week, where they had three male specimens that were, they were larger than life men. I think the movie fell a bit short with Bennett. If you had a Carl Weathers type, or even Bill Duke, who in this movie plays Cook, as the villain, the movie to me is twice as good as it is. You look at him and you're afraid. You don't know what he's capable of. He's more of an imposing figure. In Predator, him and Schwarzenegger starred a few years later. You could see they were almost equals. I felt Bennett was a bargain basement villain. That Matrix deserved better.
No. Listen, I will defend the actor who played Bennett to this day. All right, so here's the situation. So from what I understand, he was their second choice. He was not their first choice for this character. They made all the costumes for another actor who was a little bit shorter than him and a little bit thinner than him. Because the budget was so tight, they could not make additional costumes for Bennett nor adjust the costumes for Bennett's physique. Now, Bennett was like, listen, I had no time. The actor who played Bennett, he said, he's on record as saying, I had no time. I had to get there. I was out of shape. And I put it on the screenwriters and the director. If this is the guy from Mad Max and he's already doing the same character again in Weird Science, why not just make him that same character again? Why not put a mohawk on him, shave his head, at least give him something to give him reason to dress the way that he does? He looks like he's wearing a chainmail vest, but it's a sweater. He is wearing a knit chainmail sweater tucked into a belt that is on top of his leather pants. He does not look like someone that could take down Arnold Schwarzenegger only with a knife. So after a lengthy car chase, Matrix catches up with Sully and drops him off a cliff to his death. Taking a motel key then from Sully's jacket, Matrix tracks down and confronts Cook, a former Green Beret in Arius' army. He kills Cook after a lengthy fight and learns where Jenny is being held after searching Cook's car.
What was going on in that hotel room?
Wait a minute. In Cook's hotel room or Cook's neighbor's hotel room?
In Cook's neighbor's hotel room. Gene, what was going on in there?
Yeah, it looked to me, I had to rewind and look at it again because the first time I just like, oh, there's some doggy style going on. And then you look back. Basically, they burst through a door in the middle of the fight, and there's a couple, getting nasty in the room next door. But if you notice the placement, the woman is actually behind the guy. So I got a sense of a little pegging happening going on there, which, again, very progressive for an 80s movie.
For our uninformed viewers, what is pegging?
Pegging is when in a heterosexual situation between a man and a woman where the woman is wearing a strap-on and then penetrating the man from behind.
And this is for pleasure.
Oh, yes. It stimulates the prostate.
I also noticed that. There's also a camera. They are recording here. So you don't think that she just dove behind him for protection? You think that they were already in that position?
Well, what's really strange about it is there was a camera, and then they were also under covers, which I have no idea what's going on at this point. It just seems like
that's just bad camera angles.
It seems like they just gave very little thought to the scene. Maybe they wanted them to feel truly startled when they filmed it, and so they didn't actually even let them know that they'd be bursting through the door.
Well, before we even get there, there's a shootout in the mall between Sully and Matrix. And do you really react to a guy shaking a gun in front of you or shooting a gun through the window of the phone booth? Do you react that guy if he comes up and starts shaking it? Why is Sully the armed guy running away in this situation?
Yeah, it's not even a shootout. Only one guy's got a gun, and he's the one trying to escape. But to your point, Roger, if I'm in a phone booth, I don't care how huge the dude is. If he's shaking the phone booth and I'm inside of it, I'm shooting him. He's standing right there. And instead, to your point, they just make a point to show, look, John Matrix can pick stuff up.
Yeah. So Matrix, alongside his Cindy, which I have no idea why she's continuing to stay with him. They break into a surplus store in order to equip themselves with military weaponry, but the LA police arrive and Matrix is arrested. Cindy helps him escape with a rocket, and after commandeering a seaplane from a nearby marina controlled by Arius, Matrix and Cindy land the plane off the coast of Arius's island hideout.
So now we've heard that Matrix is very strong. He can lift up a phone booth with a man in it. He can pick up Sully by his ankle. He will rip off a locked chain. He can do anything, right? He rips out the passenger seat of Cindy's car. Is that even possible?
Well, I mean, the car is not safe, clearly. But more importantly, I kept waiting for them to explain why he did it.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to be any reason why he pulled the seat out.
Well, is it in the next scene? Like, all right, so they steal her convertible, her red convertible, right? He's in the passenger seat at that moment, correct? He rips out the passenger seat and then does it to hide.
Yes, I believe that was his attempt to stay incognito. He rips it out at the beginning of the chase, where they're following Sully's Porsche. He doesn't want to be seen, and he's too big for that car, so you would see his giant pumpkin-sized head sticking out above the windshield.
Okay, but then later on, isn't he driving it, Gene?
Yeah, he's driving it when they're doing the mountain, chase, in which he knocks Sully's car, flips it over, and Big D points out after he kills Sully, he takes the car back, and now he flips it back, and now it's in pristine shape again, like it never got in a wreck. Also, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when he tells Sully that he's going to kill him last because he's funny, and then again another part of John Matrix humor. I lied, and then lets a dummy, clearly a dummy, fall off the side of this mountain.
Okay, so John Matrix, he's the hero of this movie, correct?
Yes.
He's going to jail for the rest of his life. He kills at least 2 people in the U.S. He kills them when he's getting the airplane. He breaks into the gun shop. He then goes out. He's shooting automatic weapons. He steals a plane. He's going to jail. He's not a hero in this.
Okay, listen, I would agree with you until I read these notes, until I read this out, because I thought the exact same thing. But let's think about this. Who does he really kill? He only kills Arius's men, only their mercenaries.
Okay,
with the exception,
hold on.
With the exception of the police officers that were shot by not him, but by his accessory. I think that he's still in the clear because, okay, let's break it down. The 2 people he kills at the marina, those are Arius's men. That's Arius's marina.
Hold on. Johnny Cochran, take a second here. If you go outside your house and you kill 2 bad people.
Yeah. They had it coming.
you're going to jail. It doesn't matter who they were.
No, they're bad men. They're criminals.
So it does beg the question, though, is that Cindy is still hanging around. So now, she's seen all this stuff. She fires a rocket launcher on his behalf at police. Like, what kind of spell is this woman under?
I was going to say, God gave her a chance to correct her mistake, too. Like, she fires it backwards. If you're ever, like, given the option not to shoot a rocket at the police because the first time you screwed up, I don't think you take that shot. I think you're like, you know what? I got away with one.
There's no point to her even being in the movie, really.
No.
But the fact that she is there, it leads me to ask about a lot of other things. For instance, breaking into the Army surplus store. Shouldn't John Matrix have all this stuff at home already? Why is he breaking into a store to get it? I think that this actually set off a firestorm of trips to the Army surplus store. Because I remember as a kid, you could get sweet shit at the Army surplus store. And I think this movie made me believe that if you looked hard enough, there would be a grenade and a rocket launcher and all sorts of cool shit. And I definitely bought most of my clothes in school there.
Yeah, so you asked what was the purpose of Cindy? You needed a pilot for the biplane. That's the only reason she's there.
But doesn't he know how to fly a plane? Like he says, move over, I'll fly.
No, the only thing he knows about a plane is when it won't start, you just punch the instrument panel, and then the plane will start.
No, it says fly or die, works every time. Guys, the entire time this movie is happening right now with all these exciting things like killing people on docks and seaplanes, there's a calypso music score going on in the background with a pretty invasive steel drum. I thought to myself the entire time, it's tough to like figure out suspense. Like it's tough for me to like be in the moment when I'm hungry for coconut shrimp.
Yeah, it absolutely was insanely distracting throughout. And I kept thinking that it was scene specific. And then I realized, no, it's going to keep going. Even in the end, as he emerges heroic from the rubble, it's still going on. And during the mall scene, that saxophone got fucking wild, man. I mean, that saxophone was losing his shit.
It was going nuts. Like, who scored this movie? Like, there's way too much saxophone, way too much steel drum. We're not even in the tropics. We're in Los Angeles.
Big D, wouldn't this movie make a lot more sense, like you were saying, about breaking U.S. laws? From a writing perspective, as a writer, I saw a very simple solution. You just make all this shit happen in Valverde. If they'd just gone to Valverde, then he could be killing people left and right, and it'd be no problem. But I did feel like that in the U.S., with the cops bearing down and you've got the 11 hours, it reminded me a lot of 24, so I kind of got... I got pumped up because I'm a big 24 fan. So I think 24 might have taken some cues here, as did Nick of Time.
Can we talk about the fact that police arrest Matrix but completely avoid Cindy? Are you serious? They're there. They see the car. You're not hiding an 80 or a 67 Eldorado.
Well, later on when she pulls up next to them, the cop looks at her and goes, "Hooker."
That's right.
No. His partner's name was Hooker.
Bullshit. No, I'm
Hooker.
throwing the challenge flag on that one, good sir. I'm throwing that out.
I thought that too. I watched it again. He says to his partner, Hooker.
Hooker. So it could mean a couple things. It could mean she's a prostitute. It could mean that's his partner's name. It could mean like, hey, Hooker. You know what I mean? Like, hey, pull her over. It could be like, it's police slang in the 80s.
It's his partner's name.
That's all right. So Matrix instructs Cindy to contact General Kirby and then proceeds to Arius' villa. Again, she surprisingly knows a lot to be a stewardess. She can fly seaplanes, which, by the way, it's like if she's just now learning to fly in a Cessna, you cannot land in like a body of water. Like you have not achieved that skill level yet. You know what I mean? Anyway, she proceeds to Arius' villa. I guess they've got GPS somehow, killing the leader as well as his men on the way. Ginny escapes her confinement to the villa's basement, but is then captured by Bennett. Matrix then instructs Cindy to contact General Kirby and proceeds then to Arius' villa, killing the leader as well as his men on the way. Ginny, however, escapes her confinement and flees to the villa's basement, but is then captured by Bennett. Matrix tracks them and faces Bennett in a fierce struggle until Matrix fatally impales Bennett with a steam pipe. Kirby arrives with a military detachment and asks Matrix to rejoin the Special Forces unit, but Matrix declines and departs the island aboard the seaplane with Cindy and Ginny.
I love a prepping for assault scene as much as the next guy. I also appreciated that among the things that John Matrix was able to find at the surplus, he found an army surplus bikini that allowed him to row his way ashore looking sexy as hell. But I love that. I mean, they did it in Rambo, they did it in this, and I still don't get sick of these scenes where the guys, clicking everything into place, guns go into their holsters, grenades are getting clipped on. It's a party.
That's the entire allure of the A-Team, right? Like you sit through a terrible 35 minutes to get to the scene where they build whatever device they've got to build to then save the rest of the day. And it's like the final 5 minutes of people just jumping on trampolines. Basically, it's Commando, the last 5 minutes of the A-Team. Every episode. And you want to get to that where they are putting on all that stuff.
Okay, so the military wears camouflage for a reason. So you can't be seen to match your surroundings.
That's right.
John, for some reason, decides to go, guns out, and he's going to wear his tank top because he's got he's just wearing the vest, and he wants to show off the guns. That camouflage that he does, that tiger stripe across his arms, his belly, his face, that is nowhere near how you actually apply camouflage. What was he trying to hide from?
Well, what's interesting about it is that, I'm a big fan of Battlefield video games, and, there's an element of sneaking. You can choose your way to attack it. You can approach the target going in guns blazing, or you can approach your target with stealth. And it seems like John Matrix couldn't make up his mind there, because he sets up some traps with, he sets up some Claymore mines in a very interesting configuration. I noticed that he pointed them toward the building, which made no sense because they're anti-personnel. But they miraculously blow these buildings to high hell. And so now, what was the point of sneaking in if you're going to blow the buildings up away from the actual compound that you're attacking?
Not only that, I think had he worn pink camouflage, it would have been better, because all he's doing is just ducking behind flower beds and other topiary. He's not trying to find real cover whatsoever. And it doesn't matter what color he wears, because he's not trying to hide whatsoever.
Besides the fact that he shoots and kills 81 people, we do not see him reload once. Not one single time. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I loved it.
You're fine with it.
I loved it.
You're totally okay.
I loved it. He's hiding behind, like you said, the flowers. He's up on the roof. He's making himself an easy target for the 50 soldiers on the ground.
There's actually one scene where after he's acquired the light machine gun, and he's feeding his own ammunition while running and firing, where he literally runs onto like a parapet and is just firing at dudes from like 6 feet away. He almost does like a little shoulder shimmy too, like he's dancing his way through these scenes. What's interesting to me though is I believe it in the sense that he carried a lot of weapons in with him, so he might have not needed to reload because he was just using a different weapon each time. I mean, he went through shotguns, rifles, light machine guns, grenades, handguns.
Hold on, he goes through every weapon in the book, like you said. Then he goes into parkour. He jumps off the roof and takes out two dudes with like some kind of, he hits them with his shoulders and then slams their head together. Then the most epic scene in the entire movie that I did not remember as a kid, when Matrix is finally trapped in the shed.
Yes.
He has no weapons. He is surrounded. He comes out and uses circular saw blades as throwing stars, actually scalps a dude, then throws it and gets it to stick in a dude's chest. He kills a guy with a pitchfork and kills two dudes with axes, then cuts a guy's arm off with a machete. Now that's a day.
Now that you say it, I do now understand why they were nominated for a Saturn Award in special effects, because that scene alone is amazing.
With the parkour scene, anybody who follows us on Snapchat, Shat on TV is the handle. I had to shoot that and share it with everybody because of just how amazing the jump was. He actually jumps down in the sequences, looks down. He's got a shotgun, but looks down, jumps down, and then slams one guy's head into a glass table, which breaks it, and then like tosses the other guy. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I guess my question here is, you're a military man, you're a strategist. Like, you were trained by the U.S. government to be a killing machine, were you not, Big D?
Who knows?
You were born to kill is essentially what I'm trying to say. The last thing you do is someone who is trained, you're special forces, The last thing you do is run into like a storage shed where there's 0 escape routes, right? Like that's the last thing you do.
He doesn't do anything that shows me that he was properly trained.
No, his opening move, the opening guy that he kills at the compound, he pulls behind a wall and then stabs him in the belly. Like, that is the worst place to stab a guy. Not the neck. He doesn't break it. He stabs him in the belly. And then when he's already got tons of firepower, what's one of the first weapons he uses? He uses a Spetsnaz spring-loaded knife to shoot a knife at a guy. Like, he's just basically showing off at this point.
But, okay, for all the cool shit that happens in and around the grounds, and the entire time I'm thinking to myself, like, how much is he paying these guys? Like, it can't be that good. Like, where's he getting his money from? He's a deposed leader.
That's the only part that was believable for me, is that I don't think these guys were military necessarily. I think they were just this guy's buddies, maybe, who he just put into some generic uniforms. Because these guys also seem to have 0 training other than ballet.
Yeah. And then I thought there was going to be like a huge fight scene between John Matrix and El Presidente or Arius. It's not. Doesn't he just like blow him away quickly with a couple shotgun shells?
No, they have a comedic standoff.
Oh, that's right.
Where I felt like it was the Naked Gun, where one is hiding behind a pillar and the other one is like 10 feet away, and they're popping back and forth. I believe at that point, El Presidente has an M60.
Yeah.
And Matrix has a shotgun, but somehow Matrix gets a jump on him, hits him twice, and now it's off to save Jenny. But still, Jenny's now been abducted. Nobody's hurt her, but there's still an undertone of threats of violence to her, not just death. But some of the men had said that, cutting a little girl's throat is like slicing into warm butter. It was a bit creepy.
It definitely was. Well, all right. So again, this is where he is going to rescue Jenny. Does he sense Jenny, or does he hear Jenny?
Yeah, he hears her. When she's running away from Bennett, she's screaming out, "Daddy, Daddy!" And then he hears her and realizes where she is. I'm surprised that they have this whole compound, but no like prison area where they could keep her. It just seems kind of odd. It's like, we're going to put you in this room with some very small, like thin boards that are going to keep you inside.
We got these at IKEA. Basically, we had these left over. We picked up the extra cardboard boxes from Costco, and that's what we're going to put over your door.
I like when Bennett bursts through them. Kind of falls through them, and then does this like weird like leap over this 3-foot wall in which he displays his pathetically small tattoo.
It was like the Kool-Aid Man coming through the wall. Oh yeah. He busts through the wall, and now he's chasing after Jenny, which to me doesn't make sense. Bennett knows that John is there to save her. He should be more focused on killing John than going after Jenny.
Yeah.
But they somehow work down into what looks like a giant boiler room.
Yeah, Big D. They get in the boiler room where they're going to have the final standoff. Now, here's the thing. Bennett, in talking with Arius, says, he goes, I know, I'm afraid of John Matrix because I know he's better than me. But I've got something. His advantage, the only thing he's got is Jenny. Jenny is the only thing that's going to keep him safe. He's not running to her to take her out. He's running to her because as long as he's got possession of her, he's safe from John.
I don't know about that, because El Presidente tells Bennett to go kill Jenny when they find out that John wasn't on the plane. That's when Bennett realizes she's escaped. So he was initially going to kill her.
Right, but he also knows that her being alive is the only thing that's keeping him alive. Like, in the sense that he's got to get to, if Matrix finds him and Jenny is off on her own, he's going to wax him immediately.
So Bennett has a gun. Bennett has the drop on him, but yet is still like, if he knows all these facts that Bennett, that Matrix could take him and all that stuff, and he's using the daughter, why doesn't he just shoot him? Why doesn't he just shoot him?
Well, Matrix says, I've only got one arm now. Like, you could beat me. He talks him up into the point.
A flesh wound. Yeah, a flesh wound, right?
He's like,
okay.
He's like, I've got one arm. You can beat me now. And he goes, yeah, I can beat you. Again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. To me, if I'm Bennett, I get the fuck out of there immediately.
Do you get the feeling that he kind of coaxed him? That he kind of used like his attraction for John Matrix against Bennett? Because the line, and I'm quoting here. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, keep going.
Because the quote that I want to read here, that is direct from Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Matrix's mouth is, "Put the knife in me. Look me in the eye and see what's going on in there when you turn it. Don't deprive yourself of some pleasure. Come on, Bennett, let's party." Like, do you think that he really means for Bennett to stick a knife in him? Or do you really think that knife is code word for something else?
I think, first of all, you sounded like Hans and Franz from Saturday Night Live.
I thought he sounded more like Dieter from Sprockets.
Regardless, yeah, there could be some tension there, but John uses everything he can to get Bennett to put down the knife. And the creepy part to me is Bennett's face. He looks, there's a famous gif of his face where he's like, "I'm going to kill you, John." And it looks like he might have been doing something else.
"I'm not going to shoot you between the eyes. I'm going to shoot you in the balls."
Yeah, so that was the most undisciplined thing he did. If he has an enemy cornered who he knows is more skilled than he is, he would have put John down. You don't level the playing field.
I'd argue the most unprofessional thing he did was that outfit.
That's right, the Freddie Mercury outfit.
I thought it was chainmail, which made sort of sense. No.
Nope, it's just a sweater. Just a sweater.
What about the dog choker? Were you okay with that?
Listen,
the collar.
I'm always okay with the dog choker.
I'm gonna throw out a millennial term here. Bennett looked very thirsty for John Matrix, is what I'm saying. He looked like he wanted to slide into those DMs. That was the look that Bennett was giving John Matrix the entire time. But after battling in the most anticlimactic knife battle ever, he pushes. Does he throw the pole or does he push it into it? Anyway, he kills Bennett with a brass pole that then steam escapes from. What is it?
So here's the thing. I'm watching this, and just when I think the movie can't outdo itself for ridiculousness, he throws a hollow pole through a fucking man into a steam vent. That's insane.
No.
You know how much force that would take?
No, it's not into a steam vent. It's into a boiler. So it goes through a human torso. Both, he's wearing chainmail or whatever it is, out the back. Light sweater. And
from the Gap.
Into a boiler.
That's right. Yeah. Let off some steam, Bennett.
Yeah, then we finally get the metaphor and symbolism that Raj is looking for as steam is gushing forth from his pole. Yeah. Congratulations, Raj.
I've done it. Now, at this point in the movie, I have waited for it all movie. I think that at some point the military general that recruited him or that he worked for was going to show up and he was going to get his daughter and they were going to say, "Get to the chopper." This is not the movie where he says, "Get to the chopper."
No, "Get to the chopper's Predator."
I was completely wrong. I thought this came from Commando. I have lived on this earth now for 36 years, completely did not know that "Get to the chopper" was not in Commando. I've been telling everyone I meet that it's Commando. No one corrects me. I'm the asshole.
No, because "Get to the chopper," when you close your eyes and you say those words, you can see the jungle they're in Predator. There's no jungle in San Pablo or San Pedro Island or wherever they are at this point.
It looked jungly. There were jungle moments. It had jungle accoutrement.
You messaged me. You said they're in Mexico.
That's right, I did.
Well, they were in Mexico, I think.
Okay, so here, the "get to the chopper" line was said with urgency, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what's the urgency in John and his daughter getting to the friendly helicopter? You've killed all the bad guys.
I'm just as confused as you were. I was like, what is there going to be? Is the general going to be a bad guy? I thought the general double-crossed him.
I thought in this scene, it made me start wondering, was he set up? Was this an action that the military wanted him to take anyway? And so he was actually set up. This was Kirby's way of getting him to take out Arius and his crew. They just let things happen. It was sort of a 9/11 situation.
Okay, here's my problem. You have 3 helicopters that have landed with helicopter pilots.
Sure.
Instead, you choose to get into a seaplane with your daughter and a woman who doesn't have a pilot's license to fly back. That's not safe. You got your daughter.
No.
Get in the helicopter, fly back.
I also like that when they take off, they don't just take off in a linear fashion. They actually take off, do a big loop around the boardwalk.
That's right. They do a flyby.
She's got the hang of it now.
Yeah, she doesn't need any more classes. This is, but yeah, no, I thought it was a little weird all of a sudden that Cindy and Jenny had a relationship. Like they just met. and they're hugging already and saying, get in the plane, get in the plane. So that's that is, unless there's anything else, gentlemen, that's what I had written down as the plot. Now's the part of the podcast where we take out our respective Shat meters and we measure how many wipes this movie would take to get off your bum. For those of you who are not familiar with the sliding scale, a 1 or a 0, anything a 1 or above, that is a perfect movie. That means it's a ghost poop. You go, you take a poop, you don't have to wipe. Like there's nothing there. You're like, what happened? All the way to a 5 or more, which is the worst movie. You just got back from a Valverde all-you-can-eat buffet, and you drank the water. Like, that's what a 5-wipe movie is. So with that being said, I'll start with you. Big D, how many wipes does this movie take to get off your ass?
So I will preface it. I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. A lot of fun, enjoyable. You didn't have to think. But per our scale, is it a perfect movie? No, it's actually pretty bad. We did a movie last week, Rocky IV, which wasn't great either, but I would watch that movie again right now because it was fun. This was fun in small doses every 15 years. So I feel bad doing it, but I got to give it a 3.5.
3.5? Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Would you watch it again right now?
Yes. I think that I really need to apologize to Raj for giving The Last Starfighter such a high rating because now I feel boxed in here. I can't say that this movie was worse than The Last Starfighter. It is so much better than The Last Starfighter, which I believe I gave a 2 or 2.5 to.
You gave that bad boy a 2.5 and talked me down to a 3.
So I'm gonna go 2 on this because I watched it and I went, wow, this is a really bad movie. But here's the thing: is that since watching it, I have sent clips of the action scenes from the end to several people, and I even felt the need to snap it. It was that hilarious and amazing. I mean, they really went to great lengths to make that a fun scene. I say, and again, as Raj pointed out, it set the pace for future Schwarzenegger comedies. It kind of set up a genre of like this comedy action thing that was kind of new at the time. It was breaking some ground there. Yes, the audio sometimes didn't match up with their mouths. Yes, you could tell every time a stuntman was used. Yes, the freaking Bahama Breeze soundtrack was a little distracting. But I would say I'm gonna go 2 here. A very, very generous 2.
All right, so listen, we've got a tale of two cities here. I believe that this movie, if you look at it through the lens of a critical eye, which unfortunately I did, I had no idea I was supposed to look at this as a parody of Rambo. If I looked at it as a parody of Rambo, this is a 3-wipe movie. If you look at it with a critical eye, it's probably a 4-wipe movie, but it's a fun poop. Like you took your phone in there and you got some work done. Like that's how you feel about this movie. You don't feel bad after watching it. Like you don't hate that you watched it. It's just not a good movie. But I feel like Hollywood, later, when they made the movie Crank and Crank 2 High Voltage, they finally got this style of genre movie right. Like, it's over the top, doesn't take itself too seriously, and I feel like that's what Commando is. So I'm giving it, we'll call it a 3.5. Between 3 to 4, 3.5. That's what I'm doing it. So it is a 3-wipe movie. That's what I'm being informed here by my wonderful judge. Thank you, Gene, for that. But overall, listen, it's a fun 3 wipes. Like it's like wiping with 2-ply. Like you're going to enjoy the experience. With that being said, Big D, what are our movies upcoming? I know we got some crazy things on our website right now.
Yeah, Rod. So what we decided to do is each week we put out 4 movies to vote on by genre. And what I decided to do to help speed the process up and get more people involved is to post the next 4 weeks so people could see what's coming up. So what we have on there is we have 4 high school days movies, 4 law enforcement, 4 time travel, 4 college days. If you go there right now, we have then a total of 16 great classic 80s and 90s movies. You can vote for each of the categories, and then you'll have an idea of what's coming up the following week, and you'll be able to watch it and then listen to us.
Yeah, I like that we're putting out in advance the weeks so that you can take the time on your schedule to watch them. Gene, where can they find us on social media?
We are on Twitter at Shat the Movies. We're on Facebook. Just search for Shat the Movies. Also on Instagram at Shat the Movies.
If you have a suggestion for a movie that you'd like to see us vote on, email us. We're hosts at shatthemovies.com. If you find us wherever you download your podcast, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. And share on your social media. Share with a friend. If you got a guy or a girl with a birthday coming up, give them the gift of a Shat the Movies subscription. I'm sure they'll like that. But on behalf of my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Gene Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. We'll see you next time on our Shatty Couch.